Okay, guys, we're going to talk about Harden tonight. Sixers at home. They take on the Knicks. Bob Bryant, I made the prediction that with Harden back, I think the Sixers are going to be in the finals. What do you think about what you've seen so far, and what do you think about tonight?
If you the Dixville notch sampling we've had of 2 games is terrifying for the rest of the league. If this is going to be maintained. Now, they didn't play. They played the Timberwolves and they played the Knicks, and the Knicks are right now
there you go.
A disgrace. So you can't fully judge. But the predictions about the pairing of Embiid and Harden and what that might entail in the first 2 games is a Daryl Morey wet dream. It's all coming to true. Do you realize that Embiid is averaging 34 points a game in the 2 games they played? He shot 27 free throws in the second game, and I'm sure that most of them are the recipients of passes from Harden. Harden had 16 assists in that game. And just think if they did that, what they should do with assists, which is if you throw an assist to a guy makes a free throw, that should be an assist. They should go by halves if they only makes 1. I mean that. I've been saying that for 40 years. Because, why should you be cheated when a guy misses a layup if you give him a great pass? Anyway, Harden has been spectacular. He had a triple-double with no news. He's been great. And, guys, the pilot fish, known as Tyrese Maxey,
it's been good.
It scored 28 and 21 in those 2 games. And there was a lot of legitimate speculations about whether he would benefit and how much he would benefit based on the first 2 games. So far in the early returns, very, very early against a so-so team and a horseshit team, the results have been fantastic.
Well, Jeff, we knew the guy had it in him if he just chose to do it.
Well, but
let's hear it.
I just don't know if he can sustain it. Again, can he stay healthy for a 2-month run in the playoffs? Like, that's my bigger thing is you've got Joel Embiid, who, knock on wood, has been healthy for a while now. And James Harden, who, again, his body looks like he's my age. And I'm 50, by the way. All right. His body, I might have a better body than James Harden at 50 years old for somebody who never works out or rarely works out.
He's got a better step back. You got to concede that.
He does. He does.
Okay.
No,
All right.
no question. No question.
Okay.
But I feel like I don't know how much you can count on him, Gary. That's the question I have is like, okay, in the East, my biggest thing is who can you count on that's going to show up every day, that's going to be healthy, that's going to perform? Don't we know the answer to that? Giannis.
No.
That's who we can count on, right? We know what Giannis is going to bring every single night. We know he's probably going to be healthy for the most part. I mean, he played through it in their championship run, right? He played through injuries there. I feel like with Philly, we don't know. With Brooklyn, we certainly don't know with KD's injury history. Kyrie, even if he gets back on the court full time, I've had numerous people tell me he's got old man knees for years. He's had shoulder. He's had, I forget what it was that he missed the Celtics playoff run and didn't even show up for the game. Didn't he have like a toothache or something, and he had to have surgery, and he couldn't even show up to support his teammates. Right. So I just feel like, to me, it's about reliability right now and knowing what you're going to get, and that's why I'm going to stick with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, I'm going to, Mr. Echo on the fact that if you put that proverbial Luger to my head, if you were starting it all tonight, I would pick the Bucks. Okay, but that doesn't mean that I would discount the chances of the Sixers or the Heat, frankly.
Well, you want to see what they look like when it matters.
Of course. Well, but isn't that always the case? I mean, so often the case. You could go back and trace the Celtics in the 60s and the years that guys, they benefited. And the one championship they lost in 58 because Russell got hurt. But
we haven't seen these teams, Bob. That the difference is that team, like you knew what you were going to get with all these other teams. Brooklyn, we haven't seen them all year.
No.
We haven't seen them with Ben yet, and we're coming down the stretch drive. And with Philly, again, we've seen them for 2 games so far coming down the stretch drive, and it's 2 guys who have a major injury history, especially with Embiid.
That's true. And now speaking of down the West, we got an injury with Chris Paul. We'll get to that. But all kidding aside, aren't they absolutely better off making sure they're on the road in the playoffs.
Well,
They're
yeah, sure.
I mean,
Sure, right.
and they will be, right? If they make it, that you would think every series they should not be the home team, which they're going to like.
Right. No, if they have a choice.
Now, this just bothers me. Yeah, it just does. It just bothers me. And because there's a possibility of shenanigans. I don't like it. It's bizarre, and of course that brings us back to why it is. And this perplexing individual,
Well, I'm not a big karma guy, but in this case I am because it fits my argument. I think Brooklyn's done. I mean, maybe Simmons can help him out, but as far as Kyrie's concerned, I just think there's too much negativity in the air with him, whether he's home or on the road. Yeah. And, and you're right, Bob, it is a shame, but I got to tell you, man, at the beginning of the year, I thought it was Brooklyn and the Lakers, and I don't think those two teams are not factors at all.
Forget that.
I think Brooklyn's right there with them.
Well, because you're right. You haven't seen Ben Simmons yet. We haven't seen him all year. Kyrie, you have no idea what to expect with him mentally. KD, you have no idea what to expect physically. Those are three wild cards, of which are they all going to line up when it matters most? I say no. I
agree. That's why I don't think it's going to be a factor with Brooklyn, whether it's home. I mean, you're right. Bob's right. They're going to try to lose or whatever. They want to fix it so they can be playing the road. I don't think it's going to be enough for them. That's my point. But real quick, because I do want to get to John Morant, but Bob touched on it real quick on the Suns. They're still 6.5 up with the best record.
Yeah. I mean,
can they maintain this, Bob?
They have a cushion. They might not. They've lost 2 in a row since he went down.
Right.
and they've lost 2 in a row since he went down. And that's 2. It's no big deal. It's not push the panic button. But also, they don't have Payne. And, if they had Cameron Payne, I don't know how far away he is, but, they don't have a point guard, a backup of some reliability either. So there's a lot of, pressure on Booker and Bridges and, et cetera. I don't know. I don't like, I'd be a little worried. I mean, but I'm not going to panic yet. But they do have the cushion. Yeah, it's a nice cushion. It's thank God they had it. But they're going to, we could maybe safely say they're going to need it if they're going to hold on and be the number 1 in the West.
Well, you want the home court. You want the home court when it matters if you get to like the NBA Finals, right? It probably doesn't matter much early. To me, whether you're going to play the 8 or the 7, I don't know how much that's going to matter. But when it gets down to it, NBA Finals, you're going to want the home court event.
Yeah, you're going to want it. So it's going to once again, how many times? Chris Paul, he's still 0 for career, and injuries
always hurt. Always hurt.
And this one is thumb. Right. I don't know how he did it, how he dislocated. I don't know exactly how he did it, but it's his thumb on his shooting hand, unfortunately. And 6 to 8. Oh my God, that's the playoffs time. So that's opened the door for down the road. We'll see how they fare in the short run here. But the first 2 games were not encouraging.
Right, John Morant lighting it up.
Oh my God.
I mean, just I thought of Allen Iverson. I'm thinking of Pete Maravich. These are the type of visions that I'm having. I mean, I don't know, Bob. Do you think he's AI? Or
just stick with guards for a minute. I mean, point guards, guys that size. Pete was 6'5", and Pete was sui generis. There's never been anything before or since that was the complete package that Pete Maravich was. Okay, which includes playing for the father, 44 points a game in college, allowed to do anything he wanted to do, kind of thing. That's a whole different matter. AI is the model. It is AI. This is force us to re-examine his career again and some of the things he did, including dragging a team that you couldn't name 2 other guys on the team to a finals once. Anyway, but I have to give him his due. That's the guy we want to. That's the frame of reference to me. What we are seeing, folks, he is the best show in basketball, and we got some good ones. I mean, Doncic is a show. Jokic is a show, right. But this is the best show. And what he put on the other night, I only wish I got to go check that game out because I just got through reading about it and more. I didn't. Some of the stuff that was contained within that game is one of the greatest shows. It could be. I'm just throwing it out there, Jeff. Maybe you can. It could be one of the greatest performances ever in NBA history in a regular season game. Not that people haven't scored more points, but the drama that was involved and the stuff he was doing, dunking on Pirtle and throwing one in from falling out of bounds at the end of a period and making 13 straight points when the game got down on the line. I mean, holy, This guy's for real, folks.
It's funny because, again, he was kind of an obscurity till his final year at Murray State, right? A mid-major recruit. Nobody really knew much about him. I remember I was the first one who I think interviewed him nationally the year he came out at Murray State, the breakout year he had. And we're trying to come up with kind of comps for John Morant coming out of Murray State. And I'm like, there isn't one, because here's the difference. Even with he and Iverson, I think he's freakish athletically. We knew that, right? He's not a great shooter, but he can make shots from deep, kind of like Luka, right? They're not great shooters, but they can both make them when needed, and they kind of make them in crunch time when it matters. But to me, the difference is he's also got the court vision and the passing ability. Yeah. That was the thing. Like, he had Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook explosiveness with Mike Conley court vision and passing ability. AI didn't have that. AI was a undersized two guard masquerading as a point guard. Right.
He was
a point guard.
He was a scoring guard. AI. I'm not diminishing anything. I'm just saying he overcame his size, right, to do what he did, and the way he did it. Right. This is not the same, but this is still the frame of reference. I'm just throwing in there for the numbers that are being put up in explosiveness. No, I agree. He is. And now the question you raised, but I think the inference that you raised, Gary, is, okay, is he a winning ball player? Well, they're 43-20 as we speak. They're on their way.
He is.
They're on their way to having the best record in franchise history, which, by the way, is 56 wins.
Is he going to win a title in Memphis, or is he going to have to go out?
Well, he needs more help. He's not doing it alone.
I don't want to get.
No, I'm not knocking the guy.
I don't want to.
I would love to see him win a title in Memphis. I would love to see Beale Street be lit up with an NBA title. But I'm not diminishing that, I guess. But I always look at these guys like in Memphis. I'm like, are we going to see him with the Knicks? Are we going to see him with the Lakers? Are we going to see him with Miami?
I know, you're right, but I don't want to go there today with that. I want to just... they got
to add another dude with him. They got to find a way to get a free agent to Memphis, which is not easy to do. No. Basically, because of John Morant, because they want to play with John Morant. And again, generally, it's not going to happen. It's almost like you got to get a kid from Memphis to go back home or something like that, and I don't know.
And he can't reinvent himself, and take off 25 years. But by the way, based on the reaction of his teammates for the game the other night, he seems to be well liked. He seems to be a guy you want to play with.
He's awesome. I've only dealt with him a handful of times.
Over the moon for this guy to get to 50.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we talk about Job. Bob raised this thing, Zion who, right? And Jeff, let's start with you, because Zion was the overall favorite to be the number one pick. And I was with you, man. This kid out of Murray State. Now, I'm not going to say that I was as adamant as you about Ja, but I remember seeing him in college, and I was like, this kid's going to be great. And Zion is, he's got issues.
Well, my biggest worry has kind of come to fruition with Zion. How is he going to carry all that weight? Everybody was worried about that. And I saw him when he got hurt balloon up in high school. Guys, he ballooned. So I was worried about that part. He just seemingly was always hurt. And the biggest thing I go back to is all right, point guard play. It's always the most important position on the court. And if you have a guy like Ja, who apparently has no holes in his game, because again, the court vision, the passing ability with the athleticism, we just haven't seen a guy like this. That's where I felt like Ja Morant was going to be more valuable and fit today's NBA better than a Zion Williamson, who, again, is not a great perimeter shooter. So, and remember, at that time, he was also, when he was drafted, it was with Lonzo Ball. And I'm saying to myself, Lonzo and Zion playing together, the spacing isn't really going to work. Yeah, the lobs are going to work. But Lonzo at that point wasn't a great shooter. Zion's not a great shooter. But the biggest concern was health and injuries. And unfortunately, because I love Zion, and I still can't believe all the stuff that has come out about Zion, J.J. Redick taking a shot at his fellow Dookie and basically saying he's not engaged with his teammates. It surprises me, because I'll tell you what, at Duke, man, they love this kid because he was one of them. He didn't put himself above anybody. He didn't want the attention. So this really, really surprises me, almost to the point, Bob, where I feel like somebody is in his ear telling him what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, I know you've encountered him personally. I have not. But when I read that thing from Reddick, and when I read the implication that the idea he's been disengaged and he's not, and that's not good. I mean, it's just such a redundancy to point out that the weight thing and the body shape was very precarious. It was always the big what if with him was going to be that bodies like that. I can give you historically. They don't last in this league too long. Whether you're talking about tractor trailer, you're going all the way back to Leonard Gray, who was there's a name people today don't know, but let me tell you something. Leonard Gray was a force for a couple of years until he wasn't. He ate himself out of the NBA. Oliver Miller, who was damn good basketball player, smart basketball player, ate himself out of the NBA. So it happens. Those bodies aren't really NBA, standard issue.
Okay. Bob, this week, Jeff is going to be down with Coach K. But I want to start with you. When did you, because this is his last, this is the swan song from Mike Krzyzewski.
Right.
Did you know him at Army? When did you first encounter him?
No, my first encountered him at Duke, and my initial encounter was very pleasant. It was after in 1985-86 season, I believe it was. Yeah, the year they went to the finals, which one of my favorite teams of all time, by the way, the 85-86 Duke team. So in December of 85, they had and I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I hope I'm right about it, but I'm pretty sure about it. They had a wonderful game in Madison Square Garden against Kansas. And I spoke with him after the game. And as a result of that, I wrote, I had written something anyway, he complimented me about something I had written. So naturally flattery is very, seductive actually, and then I've had a couple of encounters with him over the years. One time BC was playing down there at Duke when I was still working, and I went down a day or so early and I got an audience, and he gave me a good audience, and then I got him after this. I actually kept score of the Kentucky game on the first sheet that you get. I've got it, and he signed it for me. And I need to get Hill and Leitner too, but I got ships out. Anyway, my encounters have been very pleasant with him. Now I know, the general prevailing wisdom, and I know how he can be, and he has evolved into an emperor. He's an emperor down there, and he's more important than anybody in the school, including the school president, has been, and his influence is enormous. And I know how he can be, but and so I'm not going to ignore that. But I have to say, he's always treated me well.
Yeah. How many times have you been to Cameron, Bob?
I'd say about 4.
Yeah.
One of them was I was there tonight. Bias dropped 40 on him, Jeff.
Were you really?
I was there that night. And what I don't know is why the hell I was there that night. I still covering this up. I don't know what. I know the first time I went there, it was because Harvard was playing there.
Really?
And that's when they were recruiting Danny Furry. And Pete Wilby was coaching at Harvard. And I went down to do the story. And it was so funny. The kids, Bobby Furry, Jr. was one of the best player on Harvard at that time. And the crowd was chanting, "We want your brother. We want your brother." And they got their brother. I got his brother. But and then I was there for a couple of BC games. And I was there for that Len Bias. I was there when he dropped 40 on him. So yeah, that's been a while though. That goes back obviously 30 years, but I had that. So I've been here a long time.
I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, it's going to be. It's going to be cool. The ticket prices are anywhere between. I think it's about $3,000 to just get in the building. Yeah. To I think upwards of I've seen $80,000. I don't know if 80.
I heard that figure. I don't know. Who knows? The people don't. Maybe a lot of people listening to us don't really realize that Cameron only seats 9,000 plus.
That's the key.
Right.
And they have resisted over the years any entreaty to build a bigger. They like the atmosphere. They want to preserve Cameron as such. Cameron crazies, all that, and so let Carolina build the Dean Dome at 20,000. They stuck. So they've stuck with this, and it was built in 1941. Cameron, I know
it's got the look, Gary, of a bigger, obviously not a high school gym, but some of that character to it. and walking up, it's just you feel like Kansas, like college basketball. You just feel it there, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be like 75 degrees this weekend. I'm getting in tomorrow. Kay's doing his press conference. I feel like I'm pretty sure every former Duke player that Kay has coached has been invited back for this game. A lot of them obviously won't be able to. Some are coaching. The Jeff Capels of the world, the Greg Paulises of the world, probably can't make it because Chris Collins. But I think you're going to see royalty. Bobby Hurley's coaching. But Leitner should be back, you would think. I mean, it should be a very, very cool environment. My relationship with Kay a little different than yours.
I understand.
It was hot and cold throughout our. It's funny when I broke in doing this 20 or some odd years ago, Bob. I broke in at 30-ish. I was doing recruiting, then I did college, and I break in at 30, and I'm like, you know what? At that point, Kay is 55, and I'm saying to myself, I'm not even going to bother trying to have relationships with the Kays, the Boeheims, the Roys, because they're getting older, and they're not going to pay any attention to me. I'm some kid here who's just trying to break in the sport, right? I'm not even. And then as it turns out, you have relationships with all these guys. I guess I've been able to make it in this industry long enough that I've had them, and I've tried to be very real with my opinions. So I'll give you one example of when we kind of not had it out, but we had a little bit of a tiff in Vegas. He comes up to me and he's upset at me because I had said on TV at ESPN that Kay had a major recruiting advantage by coaching the Olympic team, and he utilized it.
Yeah.
And he came up to me and kind of was denying it. And I just said to him, I said, and I don't call him coach. Maybe I should, Bob.
No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't.
I call everybody. The only guy I've ever called coach is Lute Olson, because I was a student at Arizona. It felt different with Lute, but everybody else, I'm not calling Mike Krzyzewski. It's not my coach. Lute Olson wasn't my coach either, but that was just different for me. So anyway, I went up to him and I was just like, hey, Mike, here's the deal. I knew what you were doing. I knew how you brought players over to meet Kevin Durant at national team practice. I knew that you had hour-long meetings with Austin Rivers when he was playing for the USA national, junior team. So don't try to bullshit me. I know what was going on there. And I told him that. I said, listen, you won a title with Jahlil Okafor, Justice Winslow, and Tyus Jones. They all played for within the USA system. So come on, man. You earned it. I'm not saying, listen, you earned the ability to coach that Olympic team and take advantage of that in recruiting. Don't deny it. Embrace it.
Who wouldn't?
Exactly.
It's absolutely foolish. Of course. No, the word for that is disingenuous. I hate, and that's the thing I hate as much as anything that we encounter in our business. I always remember the king of disingenuity was Bill Parcells when I dealt with him.
Really?
And that's the word that they come stop insulting my intelligence. The more I got in the business, the more I got resentful about certain things. And this is what you're talking about. You're insulting to deny it. Yeah. And then not to say, hey, why shouldn't I? To say, hey, nothing wrong with that. He's
one thing I want to ask you though. I want to ask you about Kay, and then I know Bob. We got to get to Will.
Yeah.
But, he's a disciple of Bobby Knight, right, through Army. And the thing that always amazed me about Krzyzewski, which is I think this is what you have to do now when you're a coach. I mean, Krzyzewski, from what I understand, when dealing with players, can be he can be a hard.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, he can be tough. But when you meet him or the public persona of him, on the court, he can be a Bobby Knight. But the persona of him publicly was never that.
Well, he does this. Right when he's MFing any player or a ref, he's doing this. so nobody can see what he's saying, always. Right. I mean, think about this. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Gary, but behind the bench, they have like their managers are told to put up like towels or like a blanket so you can't see into their huddle a lot of times.
Yeah.
So like there's all sorts of things that they're doing to protect Coach K and his image.
And he likes to hold himself, the image up that he is above all this to start with. I even heard the most recent thing I heard yesterday or the day before, which is talking about, in our house, we have no reference to basketball in our house. There's no trophies. I'm just saying, he said this. We got no reference, because obviously the emphasis being, I'm just a teacher. I'm just a faculty member. I'm just a guy, and I have a complete divorce from that. It doesn't define who I really am, this Coach K thing. Oh, really? All right. Okay. But he's always tried to do that. And as I, now, having said this, the fact is he's a phenomenal coach. The fact is that there was nobody has ever been more equipped to be that Olympic coach in terms of being able to relate to the younger players and the older players. Larry Brown, was a disaster as an Olympic coach because he wouldn't acknowledge the kids. And one of them was called LeBron James. And Coach K has an ability to transcend the boundaries of basketball as much as, and he was the ideal selection. That Jerry Colangelo absolutely found the right guy to do that job. That they may never find a better one.
Nope. All right, Bob. Wilt Chamberlain's 60th anniversary.
Yep.
We're not going to joke that you were in Hershey, Pennsylvania in 1962.
If only. I was in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. That was my my sophomore year on the JV team. So it's just, in all sport, right? How many things are this singular that you can point to as defining somebody as Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game?
Sure. Ed Williams batting 400.
Yeah. Williams 406. It's Russell 11 titles, right?
For one act. Well, for one act.
Yeah, for one game.
20, striking out 20 by Clemens.
Right. Exactly. Those are some of the examples, but none of them come close to Wilt scoring 100.
In basketball, I don't know of another one. I think you have to say Wilt getting 100 is like the one that you think of.
Yeah, and the idea, that it was in Hershey, Pennsylvania, where they used to play. I went there once, guys. The Celtics played there as late as the 71-72 season. And as a matter of fact, in the 71-72 season, 50 years ago, they clinched their division, their first post-Russell division in Hershey against the 76ers. And Billy Cunningham, who's one of my all-time favorite guys in this game, came in to congratulate them in the locker room. And
really?
I'll never forget that. Yes, he did. Anyway, guys, there's this game. I tweeted this morning, and he took 63 shots. He was 36 for 63 in a 48-minute game. Wouldn't you love to see it? Wouldn't you like to just sit down tonight and watch?
You think he just yelled at his teammates, like, get me the ball every time? Like, how do you think that worked with his teammates?
Well, Guy Rogers had 20 assists in this game. The Knicks, by the way, had 17 assists and 57 baskets, so they weren't exactly sharing the ball too much that night. But the thing of that, the reason he got the 100 is the aberrational night he had the free throw line.
Right.
He was a 51% career shooter. I looked it up. But this year, guys, he shot 60%, 606 for the year. And the only time he even came close to that. And he got worse as the years go on, by the way. So you think he might have gotten better? He got worse. Some of his lowest averages were in his final 3 or 4 years in the league.
He was in the 40s?
When he was going back and forth between shooting underhand and throwing darts, which is what I would call what he did when he shot it overhand. He looked like he was a dart player in a British pub, But he was 28 for 32 from the line that night.
Wow.
And that made the difference.
Yeah.
There's no accounting for that. And now the other thing that's interesting about this game, Al Attles went 8 for 8, by the way, from the Knicks, for the 76ers. Well, not the 76ers, they were the Warriors. This is their last year in Philadelphia before they moved to San Francisco. 3 Knicks had 30.
Wow.
Including the immortal Cleveland Buckner, and we wouldn't even remember him for anything other than this night when he had 33 points in his career high. Anyway, 169, 147, and then, of course, the story after the game, this is the gospel truth. Wilt drove back to his house which was in New York City with one of the Knicks. I forget which one. I think it was Knowles, Willie Knowles, pretty sure. Wilt drove back. He didn't travel with the team. Wilt drove back to New York City from Hershey, Pennsylvania.
That's funny. Well, you always love the stories. Like in Boston, Wilt used to sleep over at Russell's house, right?
They would, excuse me, they often had dinner. And in the beginning, in the first few years, they were very social. I don't know how long that lasted. And then they had a falling out after 1969 and after the game 7 when Russell criticized Wilt for leaving the game. And then they patched it up in later years when, by the time, Wilt died, they had been friendly for years. No, he did that. I wouldn't say it was regular, Gary, but he did have dinner at Russell's, and he may have stayed over a few times.
Yeah.
Anyway,
a different world.
Anniversary of it. 169, 147.
Bob, we love you, man. That's great stuff. Jeff Goodman, we'll talk to you next week. And,
we'll talk after the Coach K game. We'll recap it.
Coach K gives you a little kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen.
All right, we'll see you later, guys.